The iPhone 14 Pros have been out for about a month now, and I purposely wanted to wait a little while to get a feel for them to let you guys know how the upgrade experience is like coming from the iPhone 13 Pro. I tend to upgrade just about every year, and it's no secret to anyone that upgrading every year isn't always the wisest choice, as it seems Apple only adds small incremental upgrades that year over year don't matter too much. But if you were to upgrade from, say, an iPhone that is 5 years old, then that is where you will begin to notice a much more drastic difference. Here with the iPhone 14 Pro, we do see some new neat features that will entice many consumers, including the all-new Dynamic Island, which revolutionizes the way you interact with your iPhone, better cameras, and always-on display, which, let's face it, it's about damn time, Apple, and so much more though. But is it really worth the hype? Join me as I give you guys my 1-month review coming from an iPhone 13 Pro Max now to the new iPhone 14 Pro Max. Is it worth it to upgrade? Let's find out. Alright, first off, I won't bore you guys with an unboxing because trust me, it's pretty bare bones at this point. So I'm going to speed this up 20x because in reality you get just the iPhone, your standard warranty information and stuff, as well as your USB-C to Lightning cable. And of course, a big letdown, no more wall adapters in the box because Apple claims it's to help the environment when really it seems like Mr. Krabs, or I mean Tim Apple, only wants to increase those profit margins because, you know, money. But I mean, here it is. On the exterior, it looks like your standard Pro iPhone that we've grown accustomed to for quite some years now. Every year, Apple will throw in an all-new color, and for 2022, we got this awesome deep purple with a really dope wallpaper that accompanies it. I really love how it plays off with the new wallpaper, and especially on the sides of the iPhone Pros with that lustrous stainless steel design. But you do have 3 other color options now, including gold, silver, which is now this fuller and cooler white, and space black, which is now a deeper black, versus the graphite from last year. And in terms of pricing, this was a huge shocker to me. Pricing wise, everything remains the same. The standard model of the iPhone 14 Pro starts at $999 here in the States, while the larger variant, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, starts at $1,099. However, in typical Apple fashion, once again, we get a pitiful starting storage of 128 gigs, which is completely insane in my opinion. Like, anything with the Pro moniker should not be starting out with this little storage. At least give us 256 gigabytes to start, Apple, come on now. You do also have the option of upgrading your storage either to 256 gigs like I mentioned for $100 extra, 512 gigs for $300 more as compared to the baseline model, or the Mac Daddy iPhone that features a massive 1 terabyte of storage, but that will set you back an additional $500 versus the base model for a total of $1,599. And that's before taxes, before a case, and before Apple Care Plus if you happen to opt for that as well. So then, color aside, let's dig deeper into what's new here, starting off with the chipset. Every year, we have come to expect the obligatory chip upgrade, and on the Pro models, we thankfully see a modest spec upgrade in the form of the A16 Bionic chip. But what's interesting and kind of sneaky by Tim Apple and co. is that during their presentation, they opted to highlight how much speedier this new A16 is versus the A13 chip, a chipset released back in 2019. Odd. They also claimed it's 40% faster than the competition, but they ignored my main question. How much better is it than the A15? Because that's what really matters here. Short answer, not that better. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's really fast and snappy, very minimal lag, but it feels more or less the same as compared to the A15, and that's mainly because the focus of the A16 Bionic chip is battery efficiency, camera improvements, and for the always-on display. Which, speaking of the display, for the first time ever on iPhone, we now feature that always-on display that we've been asking for years now. It's about time. So this is actually really useful and a feature that has been pretty standard on a lot of Android devices for the past few years now. It is very useful to have the display conserve battery at the same time as well. So all pertinent information will be displayed, and it refreshes at 1 Hz per second, ensuring that your battery should be well protected and it won't drain it considerably. Again, this is due to the awesome new upgrades to the A16 Bionic that help power that always-on display. So as you can see, it'll dim, but if you happen to get a text or need to glance at other notifications, it'll all be there without having to actually press the sleep wake button, and I think this feature is just incredibly useful. Then, our biggest differentiator on the exterior is this pill-shaped cutout that has replaced the notch. Truth be told, I wasn't the biggest fan of the notch on prior models, but what Apple has done here with the all-new dynamic island is really interesting. I was blown away at how they implemented it. That's the thing. You see, initially I thought that the pill-shaped cutout was cool and gave more space up there versus the notch, but it's much more than just some space up there. The new pill shape, which from now on I'll refer to as the dynamic island, is just that, very dynamic. It's blended in as part of the OS and can be interacted with, which is just pure genius. So for example, if you set a timer, just look, put whatever time you need for your timer, and if you swipe home or navigate to another app, look, the dynamic island stretches and gives you your timer. But it's not just limited to the timer. The dynamic island will expand with stuff such as maps, when playing music, when using Face ID, when receiving a phone call, and so much more. And best yet, I feel like apps in the future will also take advantage of this dynamic island and utilize it to take advantage of it. It's not only useful, but it's just cool as heck. It looks really futuristic for some reason, and you better believe competitors will copy this concept, mark my words. For example, having negative space up there, like we did with the notch, is I guess okay, but the fact Apple utilizes that space to make it dynamic and interactive, I mean, it's just really dope and definitely one of those enticing features they use in order to entice people to upgrade, and I'm not gonna lie, Apple's marketing team has done a phenomenal job here. And while still on the topic of the display, in outdoor conditions, the new iPhone 14 Pro models get incredibly bright. The peak brightness now gets increased to a whopping 1600 nits while consuming HDR content, up from 1200 from the 13 Pro line, but astonishingly, it can jump up to a maximum of 2000 nits while outdoors. And I cannot begin to tell you how useful that extra brightness is, especially when you have that nasty glare from the sun that sometimes makes visibility a little hard. Last but not least, one of the final and noteworthy improvements is to the camera department, and once again, we see a physical enlargement to our back camera sensor. They just keep on getting bigger and bigger, like at some point it's going to become a little ridiculous. As a matter of fact, only here on TheJuan&Only will you see leaked images of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Jokes aside, yes, the camera module is larger, which sadly means old cases won't fit this new model, but the trade-offs are well worth it in my opinion. iPhones already are known for taking very consistent and awesome photography, and now we have a whopping 48 megapixel main sensor, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 12 megapixel telephoto sensor. The versatility in the lenses is where iPhones really shine, and not only that, the computational photography just keeps getting better and better with each new iteration of the iPhone. Taking photos is just so enjoyable on iPhones, and software improvements such as 2x optical zoom is really nifty to have. The flash module is now dubbed the Adaptive True Tone Flash, which in theory should offer more versatility in certain situations to make photos become more true to life. Taking pictures on iPhone is great, we all know that, but over in the videography department is where we see huge gains with improvements such as 4K video recording while in cinematic mode, a second generation sensor shift optical image stabilization feature, the new photonic engine, and action mode, the latter being a feature that looks so cool when Apple demoed it on stage. The only drawback is that action mode, as of right now, is limited to 1080p recording. Without sounding like a tech nerd, overall, images and videos will look crisper and clearer thanks to those massive upgrades to the physical sensors and with the implementation of all the software features that make the iPhone a very potent camera. The front camera remains relatively the same, with the only noticeable change being the change in the aperture, now sporting an f1.9 aperture versus the f2.2 aperture of the prior iPhone 13 Pro. And what this means is that this should allow more light into the sensor, which should help with low light selfies or group selfies. I do plan on making an entire video focused on the cameras and videography, possibly comparing the image quality to the all-new Google Pixel 7 Pro. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comment section below. And finally, with your typical upgrade, we do anticipate to see improvements in the battery department, but here, the differences are negligible, with Apple claiming to offer an additional hour of video playback, which brings it up to 29 hours of playback versus 28 from the prior model. But this is a weird barometer to gauge at, so no worries, every year I compile my infamous drain test. So shortly after this video is released, I'll begin to work on my drain test of the entire current iPhone 14 lineup. So stay tuned and make sure you subscribe with bell so that you don't miss that. So is it worth the upgrade? I mean, no, not really, to be completely honest, but let me preface first that coming from any non-Pro model will prove to be a worthy upgrade. I mean, there's so much absent from the non-Pro models that you'll immediately notice when upgrading to a Pro iPhone, such as ProMotion, that buttery smooth refresh rate, much brighter displays, and now the dynamic island is solely reserved for the Pro models. The regular 14s still feature the notch. Listen, Apple is the king of getting people to upgrade, but unless the dynamic island and better cameras matter to you, your old iPhone should still be just fine. iPhone 12 owners benefit from a much better upgrade, and anyone coming from the iPhone 11 or earlier will be very happy with this new 14 Pro. I just don't think upgrading from the 13 Pro to the 14 Pro is worth it just for the dynamic island, cameras, and very slight improvements to the chipset. But guys, let me know what you guys think. I'm enjoying the new 14 Pro, and it's been my daily driver ever since it was released. What do you think of the new dynamic island and cameras? Drop your thoughts down below, guys, and stay tuned for that battery drain test because I'm really interested to see the battery implications the new always-on display has on these new models. Well, anyways, that's it. I'm clocking out for now. Click the like button if you found this video useful, and I cannot wait to catch you all in my next video.